Customers. It should probably go without saying that customers are an important part of your business. Without customers, you don't make any money, and without money, well, you'll be looking for a job rather than sitting where you are now. To somewhat confuse newcomers though, customers in CRM can be referred to as both accounts and contacts, since both of these can contain records that CRM considers to be customers. So before we get started here, at least in Microsoft CRM terms, accounts are records that track organizations like companies, clubs, government entities, vendors, partners, resellers, suppliers, and anything else that you can think of that normally means a company. Now, a contact, on the other hand, is a person that normally works for an account. It's the contact person that you have within that account. Now, I realize that some of you may be accustomed to thinking of an account as someone that has purchased from you in the past, but in CRM, an account is a company, plain and simple, regardless of their history with your company. So in Outlook, to add and view our accounts, we'll come over here to the left and we'll click on Sales, and then we'll choose Accounts. Now, as you can see, by default, we don't have any accounts, so we'll click on the New button, and we'll create one. And as you'd expect, the first thing we'll need to do is to give this account a name. So let's say that we're going to do business with Microsoft. So we'll enter in the account name of Microsoft. Now in our next field here, the account number, this is an optional field of up to 20 characters. So why don't we give Microsoft an account number of, say, 00001, since this will be our first account. For our next field, the parent account field, this is an optional field which I can't use right now since I don't have any accounts defined, because this is the first one that we're creating right now. But this field allows us to set a parent for this account. So where this might be useful is when we have our Microsoft account here, but Microsoft might have, and certainly does have, many other business units, we could link those to a parent account. So if we were setting up an account for Microsoft's Xbox division or their marketing department, we could assign their parent as this Microsoft account, and they'd be referred to as sub-accounts. So this could be a good way of implementing a hierarchical structure for your accounts that you do business with. Now down here we can set the primary contact for this account. And since we don't have any contacts defined yet, we'll quickly go and create one. So we'll click on the New button, and this will open up a new window where we can enter in the details for our customer. So let's add in our dear friend, Mr. Steve Ballmer. So we're going to enter in Steve Ballmer. And for his job title, we'll say he's the CEO. And let's go and add in a bogus phone number here. And finally, we'll set his email address to sb@microsoft.com. Now under the address section here, the first field is address name. Now this allows us to set a descriptive name to the address. So here we could put in something like head office or home address or something descriptive to assist people in our company in determining what this address is. Now you'll also note that over here on the right we do have this drop down box here, address type, where we could specify a primary address, a billing address, and so forth. Now the reason this address type field is important is that you can configure more than one address for an account or a contact. So by having this descriptive field here, it allows you to quickly identify which address is meant for what purpose. Okay, so for our address here, we're going to enter in head office with the address of 1 Microsoft Way, and that'll be in the city of Redmond. And if I remember the postcode correctly, it should be 98052. And of course, that's in the US. Now, when you start entering in these addresses, do keep in the back of your mind though, that both accounts and contacts should at least have one address, as this will be used when you create mail merge documents. So if you don't have an address, then the mail merge won't work properly. All right, I'm going to set his address type to a primary. For the shipping method, we'll use FedEx. And for the freight terms, since they're a good account with plenty of money to grease our pockets, we'll throw in some freight at no charge. Now, on the next tab here, the Details tab, we can set some other information about Steve, such as the department he works in, what role he has, his manager, whether he's male or female, his marital status, and so forth. Now on the Administration tab, since I'm logged in here with the Domain Administrator account and I'm creating this customer record, the owner defaults to me, although I could certainly change that if I like by clicking on the lookup icon here and then choosing a different user to assign this record to. Now at the top here we can also specify if this contact came from a lead that we've captured elsewhere, but we're going to talk more about leads in another video. We could also set a credit limit for Steve, as well as payment terms, and so forth. And of course, if they aren't paying their bills on time, we could also choose to place them on credit hold so our staff knows not to ship them any more freebies until they settle their account. Okay, now we can also choose how we should be contacting Steve, whether that's by email, by phone, fax, or regular snail mail. So under our preferred drop-down box, we'll say that Steve prefers to receive email from us, but we're not going to send bulk email to Steve because he's probably a busy man. Now down the bottom of this window here, we can also specify whether or not we should be sending marketing materials to Steve and what time of the day is best for Steve to receive our notifications. Now finally on the last tab, the Notes tab, we've just got this free text field here where we could write down anything we like about Steve as well. So let's select the hyperlink here to enter in a new note. And we can just type in whatever the note is about, and people of course can come in here and view what we've written, and if they have permission they can add in their own note. Now once we've entered in some text here, and we can save this, and that'll bring us back to our account record. Now we'll click Save and Close, then we can select Steve's record and click on OK, and now Steve appears as our primary contact. Now in the next drop-down box here is where we can set the relationship of this account to our company, such as whether they're a competitor, a consultant, a customer, an investor, partner, and so forth. So let's set Microsoft here to a customer. Now, all of the other fields that you see here are basically the same as we just saw for the customer record we created for Steve. So whilst I'm not about to waste your time watching this video by filling in all of this information in again, in your own company's CRM implementation, I'd certainly hope, and I bet your manager would certainly expect, that you will be filling in all of these fields, since your implementation is really only as good as the information that you put in there. So in your production environment, make sure that you fill all these fields in. Alright, well we'll come up to the left, we'll click on the save icon here, and down the left that's going to open up all of the other menu options for us to put more information into. Now we're not going to be covering any of the sales, service, and marketing sections in this video, since we'll deal with these topics in other videos. So let's go and take a quick look at some of the other options that we have up the top here. Well, firstly, we can put in any additional addresses for this record if we like, and it's as simple as clicking on the New Address button, and then just filling in these fields. And this screen should look rather familiar, since it's basically the same as the record that we just completed. Now next we can create activities for this account, so we'll click on the New Activity button here, and we could choose to set up a task for Steve, or to contact Steve by a fax, or make a phone call to him, or send him a letter or an email. So let's choose one of these. Let's say we want to give Steve a phone call, so we'll select phone call, we'll click on OK, and this is going to open up a new activity window where we can enter in some more details about the phone call. So we'll say call Steve about training, and in the free text field below we can enter in some notes about what this phone call is all about, perhaps what we're expecting to achieve from this phone call and what we need to discuss. Now down the bottom here you can see that the owner of this activity is myself, obviously since I've just created it, although again we can use the lookup feature here and then assign this activity to someone else if we like, such as another team member or any other user for that matter. Now we can also set a priority for this phone call from low, normal, or high, and we can configure a date for this phone call to take place. Alright, well let's just click on save for now, And we'll fast forward in time and we'll assume that we've already made this phone call to Steve. So now we can come up here and click on the Actions menu and then choose to close the phone call. And then we can either set this to made, meaning we just made that phone call, received if Steve was calling us, or cancelled if we no longer need to call Steve. So let's set it to made. We'll assume we made that phone call to Steve successfully, and then we'll click on OK. And that grays out our activity, indicating that it's been completed, so now we can simply close it. Alright, well the next option we have here on the left is history, and this is going to show us the history of Steve's account. And we'll be able to see all of the goings on with Steve, such as the phone calls, emails, and so forth. And here, of course, you can see the call that we made to Steve with the activity status of completed. Now, another thing we can do with accounts is create a business relationship with sub-accounts as well. And we did talk about this a moment ago, so let's click on the New Account button. And from here, we're able to set up sub-accounts such as other business units and then link those to the Microsoft parent business unit. And as you can see, all of these fields here are rather self-explanatory because we've gone through them now a couple of times. Now on the left here, we can also add in some new contacts for this account, and we've already seen how to do that. When we click on New Contact, we'll just enter in the details like we did for Steve there. Now next we have relationships, which of course is currently blank, so we'll click on New Customer Relationship. And in here, we're able to capture relationships between parties in two different organizations. And this does differ from the sub-accounts option that we looked at just a moment ago, whereby with our sub-accounts, we're specifying a business relationship between two business units within the same company. With our relationships here, we're specifying the relationship between an account or a contact and another company. So in our case here, since we're dealing with an account, Microsoft in this case, we can define a relationship that Microsoft has to another party. So in our party field here, we'll click on the lookup icon. And since I don't have any other accounts listed here at the moment, let's quickly click on the New button. And we'll create one. We'll just call it ABC Corp. And I'm not going to bother filling in any of these other fields. We'll click Save and Close. And we'll select ABC Corp and click on OK. And then we can simply add in a description for why we're defining Microsoft as having a relationship with ABC Corp. So for argument's sake, we could simply say that Microsoft are a shareholder of ABC Corp. And now we've defined a relationship between Microsoft and ABC Corp. And that's useful since, let's say we've built up a business relationship with Microsoft here, and suddenly this new company, ABC Corp, comes up on our radar as someone that we could potentially do business with. By defining these relationships, we then might be able to use our clout with Microsoft and Steve to assist us in forging a business relationship with ABC Corp. So this is a rather useful feature and can be a powerful thing to make use of if you have this required information to be able to put into CRM. So in this video, we've seen how to work with customer accounts and contacts, which is really the bread and butter of building up our CRM system. Without our accounts and contacts, we really don't have much of a business, so it's pretty important that you track as much information about these companies and their staff as possible. We hope you've enjoyed this video and would like to thank you for supporting Winstructor.